cancer in his other toe.
This inspired him to take a trip to Africa to visit some of his long-lost relatives. And he had trouble finding them. So.
He ended up going back into the ocean to where he found his car.
Which was a 96 Prius.
And all the haters tried to hate on him.
As he was rolling through town with the bass bumping.
Playing P. Diddy because he wakes up in the morning feeling like him.
He woke up to his big clock around his arm ringing at 4 o'clock in the morning where he then ate a Subway.
And now he decided
That it was okay. It was time to get up.
And go feed his...
Meal.
Gary.
For the soul.
And scene. All right, let's give them all a round of applause. That's pretty good, huh? And feed him food for the soul. That was great. All right. You guys can go ahead and take a seat again. Thank you very much. Let's give another round of applause. All right, so those of you guys who were just up here doing that, I have a couple of questions for you. What did that... Thank you. Thank you for standing to answer my question. It's great. And I'll be taking other questions after this entire talk. Okay. What did it feel like to be up here?
Very random.
Very random, okay? Is that a normal occurrence in your daily life? No? Okay. Usually very ordered and structured and perfect. Solid. Awesome. Okay. Pony Boy here. What?
Felt very, very frantic.
Frantic?
Yes.
Okay. Frantic, nervous, chaotic,
Yeah,
stirring of emotion. Sorry, go ahead.
so trying to make structure out of random things.
Okay? So you're trying to kind of force a flow, or like make a flow happen. Okay? What did it feel like, though, for you personally? Like, was it scary? Were you confident? What? Nerve-wracking? Okay. Okay. Awesome. Almost nerve-wracking. Mm-hmm. So you felt kind of the pressure. Yeah. So that was. Yeah. Sorry. What? Somebody else? Right. So you feel like pushed kind of to perform. Yeah. It was intense. For a spectator, it's even intense. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, well, so that gets right into kind of what I want to talk about here. Let's see if I can do this balancing act. Thank you. You guys stop. Okay. Yeah, spirit snaps. What do we call those? Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's up like this. It's up like this. You have to listen. Okay. But basically, no, I'm not done. Okay, so, but basically, the whole point I'm trying to drive at here is that with improv, there's a perfect analogy here. It's a lot like faith. Okay, because basically, you have an inspiration, right? You have some idea that you just have to go with. So the people who just performed will know kind of what this is like. You kind of have an inspiration, you just have a thought, and you just go with it, right? Like, you don't have time to think about it, you don't have time to write out the pros and cons, and kind of see, okay, well, if I say this, is this going to go over well? No. I mean, you just have to go with it. So, you have a moment of inspiration, then you step out, and you got to trust the other 4 performers up here with you that they're going to make it work, right? I mean, they got to carry the story on. Okay, so that is almost exactly like faith. Okay, so I need you guys to go ahead and close your eyes at this point. I'm going to do a little bit of a scripture reading here that kind of captures the same idea. All right, so if you all just close your eyes, I really want you to try to picture yourself in the scene here. Really try to enter into this. Don't fall asleep on me, though, please. I'd appreciate it if you didn't. Thanks. Then he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was many furlongs distant from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It is a ghost." And they cried out for fear. But immediately he spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, have no fear." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." All right, you guys can open your eyes. It's always nice to actually reflect on a scene. I mean, improv is all about scenes and seeing stuff unfold, seeing characters act and do things. It can be a lot of the same way with the Gospels. It's really nice to just kind of read through and then try to picture the whole thing as if it were just a scene unfolding. I mean, because these are stories. They're real stories, but they're stories that help us kind of enter into and encounter the person of Jesus. But so the thing is, what I love about this passage is that it relates perfectly to improv. I mean, you have Peter here. "Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water." And Jesus says, "Come." And Peter's probably like, "What did I just say?" You know, I mean, how many of you are a think before you speak kind of person? Okay, not a lot of you. All right. No, and how many of you are more of a speak and then think afterwards, "What did I just say?" Okay, that's definitely me too. All right. Typically, the first one is more the introverted, and the second one is more the extroverted. Peter is definitely more of an extrovert. You see him all throughout the Gospels. He just kind of puts something out there, and he's not afraid to speak out, which is awesome. It's a good thing, and God uses it. But then you gotta, I mean, if you know what it's like to be an extrovert, you know that it's like, "Oh, I just said this wonderful thing, and now I actually have to follow through with it." I mean, okay, I'm going to step out on the water now. So then it says, so Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. You know, so he's just kind of put something out there. He's had that moment of inspiration. Hey, wait a minute. Maybe I can actually walk out there to him. And then he has to do it. He has to act on it. So there's the inspiration, and then the stepping out, and then you have to trust that God is going to be there in all of it. And so what happens? What's the next part of the scene? He gets scared because there's a storm, right? Right, thank you. So there's a storm. When he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." So he gets scared, and that's when he starts to sink. Okay, so what does that tell us about faith? This is awesome, by the way. What does that tell us about faith? Faith is an act of trust. It's an act of trust that Jesus is who he says he is, love, and that Jesus will do what he said he will do, which is save us. Okay, and both happen in this scene. It's beautiful. And you got it in one verse, actually. It's just kind of captured right there in Matthew 14:30. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. Okay, and what is fear? Fear is the opposite of love. Because perfect love casts out fear, as we read in the first letter of John. So fear is the opposite of love. So if you know love, then fear goes away. Fear just disappears. So he has that moment of fear. He doesn't trust who Jesus is. Or at least he has trouble because of the storm. He gets more focused on the storm than on who Jesus is in front of him. And if Jesus is love, then he shouldn't be afraid. But he does trust Jesus to save him. He says, "Lord, save me." So he might have forgotten kind of the first part. He might have lost a little bit of faith there in that moment, you know, the storm. I mean, think about it.